The slap cracked like a starter pistol at 6:47 a.m. on a Saturday that was supposed to be quiet. I was leaning against the granite island in the kitchen of our Frisco Ranch-style 5 bedrooms, 3 baths and a backyard that looked more like a minor league facility than a home when Tanner's palm met my left cheek with the same velocity he put on his 4-seam fastball. The impact spun my head, sent my Whataburger coffee mug skittering across the floor in a brown arc, and left a ringing in my ears louder than the stadium lights that used to keep me awake until 2 a.m. "Cancel the damn appointment and drive me to DFW. Avery Tanner barked, hoodie emblazoned with Perfect Game WWBA in bold across the chest, duffel bag already slung over one shoulder like he was late for the World Series. Flight boards at 9:30. Scouts from 30 clubs. You're not screwing this up over a sore throat. I tasted copper. My hand flew to my face on instinct, fingers finding the heat blooming under my skin. 5 perfect prints already turning purple. It's not a sore throat, I said, voice steady, even though my legs weren't. It's a biopsy. 8 months on the wait list. Might be cancer. He laughed, actually laughed like I'd told him the Rangers were trading for Shohei Ohtani tomorrow. God, you're dramatic. You've had that lump since Christmas and you're still breathing. Call UT Southwestern and reschedule. This is Atlanta, Avery. This is the show. I didn't move. My phone sat face up on the island screen, glowing with the reminder I'd been living for. UT Southwestern, otolaryngology, Dr. Elena Hayes. 1100 a.m., thyroid FNA, do not cancel. Tanner dropped his bag. The thud echoed off the vaulted ceiling. He took 3 steps until we were toe-to-toe, his shadow swallowing the morning light. Keys, he whispered, the same tone he used on umpires who dared call a ball. Now. No. The word left my mouth flat, final, and for the first time in 28 years it didn't tremble. That's when the slap came. I staggered, hip slamming into the corner of the island. Coffee exploded across the travertine. My vision flashed white. When it cleared, Mom and Dad were already in the doorway, Mom in her LuLaRoe leggings, Dad still in his Frisco Lone Star coaching polo, whistle around his neck like a medal. They didn't flinch. Mom didn't even look at the blood trickling from my lip. She was too busy pulling up Tanner's boarding pass on her phone. His signing bonus could be $3 million, Avery, she said, voice iced over. Yours is a sore throat. Dad folded his arms the same way he did when a kid missed a cutoff throw. Family first, he said. Tanner's the ticket. I stayed on the floor for 4 seconds to feel the perfect outline of my brother's hand burning into my skin, 4 seconds to realize the house I'd grown up in had never been mine. Then I stood. No yelling. No tears. Just movement. I walked past them, past Tanner screaming about traffic, past Mom holding his protein shaker like it was the Stanley Cup, past Dad who never turned around and climbed the stairs to the storage room I'd called a bedroom for the last 3 years. The one with the slanted ceiling, the single window that faced the batting cage, the air mattress that smelled like mildew and broken dreams. I grabbed the go bag I kept for last-minute client trips to Austin, 3 days of clothes, MacBook charger, toiletries. Then the manila folder, every lab result, every referral, every ultrasound image of the marble hard lump under my jaw. Last, the envelope from the top shelf of the closet, $3, 500 inches, 20s and 100s saved from freelance gigs and Whataburger tips hidden in an old Nike box, because I'd learned early that cash was the only thing in this house that didn't belong to Tanner's fastball. 12 minutes from slap to doorstep. Tanner was already in the garage yelling about Uber surge pricing. Mom was double-checking his cleats. Dad was on the phone with the pilot of the charter, yes, the same one he wrote off as a business expense. I opened the front door. The May air hit me cool, sharp, free. Avery, Tanner roared from the garage. What the hell are you doing? I didn't answer. I stepped onto the porch, pulled the door shut behind me with a soft click that somehow drowned out every stadium roar I'd ever heard. My 2018 Honda Civic was parked at the curb, dented fender, 187,000 miles paid off with my own name on the title. I slid behind the wheel, backed out of the driveway, and didn't look in the rearview until I hit Preston Road. The handprint was already bruising, 5 fingers clear as a brand. I merged onto the Dallas North Tollway, doing 70, the skyline rising ahead like a promise. UT Southwestern was 43 minutes away. I had time. For the first time in my life, I wasn't late for something that mattered. I was 12 when the backyard stopped being a backyard. It started with a single yellow bulldozer on a Tuesday in June, the kind of Texas heat that makes the air shimmer. Dad Coach Wade Quinn, legend of Frisco Lone Star High, 3 state championships in 5 years, stood on the patio with a clipboard and a dream. Mom Lynn, former head cheerleader at Plano Senior High, still rocking her Letterman jacket at 45, passed out Whataburger taquitos to the neighbors like it was a block party. By Friday the grass was gone. By Monday, a 70-foot batting tunnel rose where our swing set used to be. Galvanized steel poles, professional-grade netting, a jugs pitching machine that cost more than my first car. Dad installed LED stadium lights, $12,000 worth. The invoice still pinned to the fridge like a trophy. The first night they flicked on, the whole block glowed. I counted 312 baseballs thudding into the net before I fell asleep on the air mattress in the storage room. Tanner was 9. Already 6 foot in cleats, already throwing 78 miles an hour. Dad called him the golden arm. Mom called him our lottery ticket. I called him the reason the Wi-Fi password changed every week. Weekends became runways. Delta first class from age 13. Tanner in 2 amperes noise-canceling headphones, sipping Sprite while I rode the DART bus to Collin College with a backpack full of ramen. He flew to Jupiter, Florida for Perfect Game, to Peoria, Arizona for area codes, to Marietta, Georgia for the WWBA. I flew nowhere. My passport expired at 16 and nobody noticed. I worked the graveyard shift at Whataburger on Preston Road, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. flipping honey butter chicken biscuits for drunk SMU kids and truckers. Then I'd drive to the Plano library, log into online classes, and pretend the fluorescent lights didn't make my eyes burn. Sophomore year I pulled a 3.8 gigapascals while Tanner pulled a 1.2. Dad's response: grades don't get you drafted, son. The dry erase board on the fridge was sacred. Red marker only. June 14, 18 PG National, Fort Myers, July 10, 16 WWBA 17U Atlanta OG 36 area code games, Long Beach. My name never appeared. Not once. I transferred to UNT Denton on a partial Pell Grant and a prayer. Lived in a 380 square foot studio off University Drive, peeling linoleum, a hot plate, and a futon that smelled like old pizza. I graduated summa cum laude in English, minor in marketing. The ceremony was on a Saturday in May. Tanner had a showcase against IMG Academy in Bradenton. Mom texted a single baseball emoji. Dad didn't text at all. I started freelancing copywriting for startups in Dallas, $75 an hour when I could get it. Every month like clockwork, Mom called: Tanner needs new cleats, $320. Radar gun broke, $1,800. Team banquet at Perry's Steakhouse, $2,400 for the table. I sent $800. Every time. Told myself it was temporary. Told myself once the lump was checked I'd stop. The lump showed up the week I turned 27. Hard, immovable right under my jawline. I felt it while brushing my teeth, cold marble against warm skin. The family doc in Frisco palpated it, frowned, sent me to an ENT in Plano. The ENT sent me to MD Anderson's Satellite in Dallas. Waitlist, 8 months. I took the first slot May 181100 AM and marked it in orange on my phone. The only orange thing in my life that wasn't a Longhorns jersey. Tanner's fastball climbed from 88 to 94 that year. Scouts started showing up in unmarked Suburbans, clipboards in hand. Perfect Game ranked him number 4 inches, Texas #27 nationally. MLB Pipeline projected a first-round bonus, $2.8 million, maybe $3.2 if he touched 96 at WWBA. I kept sending the money. Kept picking him up from the airport at 1 a.m. because Uber was too slow. Kept pretending I didn't notice how my necklaces sat crooked now, how my voice cracked on the word hello. I told myself, after the biopsy, everything changes. I told myself I'll finally matter. I told myself a lot of things. None of them were true. Not yet. The lump arrived the day after my 27th birthday, quiet as a secret. I was in the bathroom of my Plano studio, brushing my teeth with the $1.29 crest from Target when my fingers grazed it, hard, round, unmovable. Like a marble lodged under the skin just below my left jaw. I tilted my head under the flickering fluorescent light, pressed again. It didn't budge. Didn't hurt. Just was. I told myself it was a swollen gland. Stress. Too much Whataburger gravy. I ignored it for 3 weeks. Then it grew. By Thanksgiving it was the size of a nickel, pressing against my collarbone when I swallowed. My voice started cracking on the word client during Zoom pitches. I finally made an appointment with Dr. Patel at Frisco Family Medicine, the same guy who'd stitched Tanner's elbow after a line drive in 8th grade. He felt it for 6 seconds, face tightening. Refer you to ENT. Tomorrow. The ENT was Dr. Kim in Plano, a brisk woman with a clipboard and zero small talk. Ultrasound in hand, she said, solid mass. Needs biopsy. I'm sending you to MD Anderson, Dallas. Oncology track. MD Anderson. The word hit like a foul ball to the chest. Waitlist 8 months. I took the first opening May 18-1100 a.m. and marked it in orange on my Google Calendar. Not red. Not blue. Orange. The color of UNT, mean green, the only thing I'd ever earned that didn't have Tanner's name on it. 8 months. I waited. I waited while the lump grew to the size of a quarter, while my necklaces stopped lying flat, while I practiced saying thyroid cancer in the mirror without crying. I waited while Tanner's fastball climbed to 94, while Perfect Game slapped a #4 Texas #27 national badge on his profile, while MLB Pipeline projected a $3.2 million bonus if he touched 96 inches. Atlanta. I waited while Mom texted Tanner needs new Repsodo, $2,200. Venmo today. I waited while Dad called at 1247 a.m. Uber's late again. Pick him up at Terminal C. He's got ice on his arm. I waited while I wired the money, while I drove to DFW in my dented Civic, while I carried Tanner's duffel like a porter, while he scrolled TikTok in the passenger seat and never once asked how's your neck. I waited while the house on Cottonwood Lane pulsed with Tanner's Orbit. The $1,800 radar gun mounted on a tripod in the garage. The $600 divided by month subscription to Driveline Baseball's remote throwing program. The $3,400 custom molded cleats shipped overnight from Oregon. I waited while my studio lease ended, and I moved back into the storage room. Slanted, ceiling, air, mattress, the constant thwack 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 of baseballs into netting, until 1 a.m. I waited while I sent $800 every first of the month, while I told myself, this is temporary. Just until the biopsy. Just until I know I'm okay. Then I'll stop. I waited while the lump pressed harder against my windpipe, while I practiced swallowing without wincing, while I Googled thyroid nodule survival rates at 3 a.m. and closed the tab before the page loaded. I waited while Mom replaced the family photo on the mantle with a 20x30 canvas of Tanner mid-windup, his eyes locked on an invisible catcher, the Frisco skyline blurred behind him. I waited while Dad built a second batting cage shorter for Tanner's Little League teammates, who paid $150 divided by hour to train under Coach Quinn's system. I waited while Tanner flew first class to Arizona, while I took the DART Red Line to mock client meetings, while I ate cold ramen in the Collin College library and pretended the lump wasn't growing. I waited while the calendar crept toward May 18, while the orange block on my phone became the only light in my tunnel. I waited while nobody, not Mom, not Dad, not Tanner, ever asked Avery, how are you feeling? Not once. Not ever. And in the silence, I made a promise to the girl in the mirror with the crooked necklace and the cracking voice. After today, I stop. After the biopsy, I draw the line. After they tell me I'm okay or not okay, I choose me. I didn't know the line would be drawn in blood. I didn't know the choice would come with a slap. I only knew the lump was no longer the only thing growing. So was I. 6:04, 5 a.m. The house smelled like Gatorade and ambition. I was at the island cradling the first hot coffee I'd tasted in peace all week when Tanner stormed down the stairs like he owned the deed to the whole subdivision. Hoodie Perfect Game WWBA #shown stitched across the back in gold. AirPods Max clamped over his ears. Duffel swinging like a wrecking ball. Keys Avery, he barked, yanking one pod out. Flights at 9:30. Charter to Atlanta. Let's roll. My phone sat face up beside the coffee screen, glowing orange. UT Southwestern, Dr. Elena Hayes. Thyroid FNA, 1100 a.m. Do not cancel. I took a slow sip. I have the biopsy at 11. I'm not driving you. He froze halfway through the living room, head cocked like I'd spoken Swahili. What biopsy? The lump. 8 months on the list. Might be cancer. He laughed, one sharp bark that ricocheted off the vaulted ceiling. Cancel it. 30 MLB teams are sending scouts. I'm not missing my shot over a sore throat. It's not a sore throat, Tanner. It's a needle in my neck. He rolled his eyes so hard I heard the sockets creak. God, you're dramatic. You've had that thing forever. You're fine. Call and move it. No. One word. Calm. Flat. Final. The air changed. You know how it does in Texas right before a tornado drops pressure, drops, birds go quiet, the world holds its breath. That's what happened in our kitchen. Tanner dropped the duffel. Thud. He took 3 strides until his cleats squeaked on the travertine, until I could smell the mint gum on his breath. Get the keys. Voice low, the same whisper he used on catchers who missed signs. I'm not doing it. His hand moved faster than his 9.4-mile-an-hour heat. Crack. Open palm, full torque right across my left cheek. The impact spun me 180 degrees, my hips slammed the island's sharp corner. The Whataburger mug Hashon Sis, a gag gift from 2012, exploded into 1,000 ceramic shards, coffee, splattering the cabinets like abstract art. I hit the rug, hard ears, ringing vision flashing white, tasting blood where my tooth cut the inside of my cheek. Mom and Dad were already in the doorway. They'd been there the whole time. Silent. Watching. Dad folded his arms, whistle still around his neck from yesterday's bullpen session. His future matters, he said, voice flat as the pitching rubber. Yours doesn't. Mom didn't even glance at the blood on my lip. She was too busy tapping Tanner's boarding pass on her iPhone, making sure the QR code loaded. Gate 17, she murmured. Pre-check. Your golden baby. I stayed down for 4 seconds. 4 seconds to feel the perfect outline of 5 fingers branding my skin. 4 seconds to realize the house I'd grown up in had never been a home, just a launch pad for Tanner's fastball. Then I stood. No screaming. No tears. Just motion. I walked past them, past Tanner screaming about DFW traffic, past Mom cradling his shaker bottle like a newborn, past Dad who never turned around, and climbed the stairs to the storage room. The air mattress. The slanted ceiling. The single window that looked out on the batting cage lights that had kept me awake for a decade. I grabbed the go bag. 3 days of clothes. MacBook. Charger. Toiletries. Manila folder, every ultrasound, every lab, every referral. Envelope from the top shelf, $3, 500 inches cash, rubber banded, hidden in an old Nike box labeled Avery's college fund, a joke since the fund had been drained for Tanner's radar gun in 2019. I zipped it. Checked the clock, 6:59 a.m. 12 minutes from slap to doorstep. Tanner was in the garage yelling about Uber surge pricing. Mom was double-checking his cleats. Dad was on the phone with the charter pilot, yes, the same one he wrote off as a business expense. I opened the front door. The May air hit me cool, sharp, free. Avery, Tanner roared from the garage. You're dead to us. I didn't answer. I stepped onto the porch, pulled the door shut behind me with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than the slap, louder than the mug shattering, louder than every stadium roar I'd ever heard. My Civic was at the curb, dented fender, 187,000 miles, paid off with my own name on the title. I slid behind the wheel, backed out of the driveway, and didn't look in the rearview until I hit Preston Road. The handprint was already bruising. 5 fingers clear as a brand. I merged onto the Dallas North Tollway, doing 70, the skyline rising ahead like a promise. UT Southwestern was 43 minutes away. I had time. For the first time in my life, I wasn't late for something that mattered, and I was never coming back. I parked in the UT Southwestern garage at 10:42 a.m., ticket still warm in my hand. Level 4, spot 412. The bruise on my cheek had ripened to plum purple, 5 fingers outlined like a neon sign. I grabbed the manila folder, locked the Civic, and walked inside on legs that didn't feel like mine. The oncology waiting room was hushed, older patients with chemo caps, one teenager scrolling TikTok with his mom's hand on his knee. When the nurse called Avery Quinn, she did a double take at my face, but kept it professional. Right this way. Dr. Elena Hayes was already in the procedure room, chart open, white coat crisp. 42, dark hair in a low bun, wedding ring absent. She looked up and the chart lowered an inch. Avery, who did that to you? I opened my mouth to lie, walked into a door, clumsy me, but the words stuck. Instead, everything poured out. Tanner's flight, the slap, Mom's boarding pass, Dad's, his future matters. The 12-minute exodus. The $3, 500 cash. The 8-month wait. Elena listened without moving. When I finished, she set the chart down, peeled off her gloves, and said the sentence that rewired my life: you are not going back. Not tonight. Not ever. The fine needle aspiration took 7 minutes. Local anesthetic, quick pressure, a Band-Aid, the size of a postage stamp. Results in 5 to 7 business days, she said, scheduling the follow-up on her tablet. Then, do you have somewhere safe to go after this? I shook my head. My studio lease had ended in February. I'd been crashing on the air mattress in the storage room whenever I was in town. Elena didn't hesitate. You're coming home with me. Guest room spare key and a Labrador who thinks every human is his new best friend. No argument. I tried. She shut it down with one look. I've seen what happens when people go back after the first hit. We're not doing that. Her house was a 1,950 seconds 3-bedroom in University Park, red brick crepe myrtles out front, Christmas lights still blinking on the porch because life's too short. She handed me a bag of frozen peas, poured 2 generous glasses of Cabernet and sat me at the kitchen table. Insurance card, she said, opening her laptop. Hospital paperwork. I slid my wallet across. She pulled the card, then stopped cold. Avery, why are there 8 credit cards in here with your name that I'm pretty sure you didn't open? I frowned. I only have 2 Capital One and Amex from college. She logged into the secure patient billing portal, requested an updated credit report for insurance verification. Turns out oncologists can pull full Experian reports when fraud is suspected. We watched the screen load together. Total unsecured debt in Avery Quinn's name $192,000. 8 different cards, all opened in the last 36 months. All maxed. All with payment patterns that matched Tanner's baseball calendar like a fingerprint. Amex Platinum $38,000, Private Jet Fuel Lakeland FL, Hotel Suites Marietta GA. Chase Sapphire $29,000, Driveline Baseball Remote Program, Rapsodo Units, Custom Cleats. Capital One Venture $41,200, Charter Flights to Arizona, Team Banquets at Perry's Steakhouse. Discover at $34,300, Performance Supplements from a Miami compounding pharmacy flagged twice by the DEA for trenbolone and test SIP. Every application had my social security number, my signature scanned from an old UNT permission slip, my Frisco address. Some even listed Tanner as an authorized user so he could flash them at team dinners. Elena stared at the screen for a long time. Then she closed the laptop, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Your family didn't just assault you this morning. They've been robbing you blind for years, and they used your future to buy his." I sat in a stranger's warm kitchen holding frozen peas to my bruised face, staring at the number that was now my entire adult life in debt, $192,000. Every cent funneled into the myth of Tanner Quinn, future first-rounder. And not one person in that house had ever thought to ask if I was okay. Blue the Labrador padded over, rested his head on my knee and sighed like he'd seen this movie before. Elena poured more wine. "Tomorrow we call a lawyer. Tonight you sleep." I nodded, numb. For the first time in 28 years, someone had chosen me. The next morning Elena's kitchen smelled like fresh coffee and righteous fury. I sat at the oak table in one of her oversized UNT t-shirts, Blue snoring under my chair, the frozen peas replaced by a proper ice pack. My phone was off, new number already in the works. Elena's laptop was open to the credit report, the $192,000 glaring in bold. She slid a legal pad across. "Let's map the empire." We started with the Amex Platinum $38,000 charges. March 2022 $22,400, Private Jet Fuel Signature Flight Support Lakeland FL. Tanner's 15U Perfect Game Spring Training. July 2022 $9,800 FL. Ritz-Carlton Marietta GA. Team Banquet for WWBA 16U, December 2023 $5,800 NetJets Charter Peoria AZ. Area Code Games. Next Chase Sapphire $29,000. $14,000. Driveline Baseball Remote Throwing Program 18-month subscription, $8,200, 3 Rapsodo units shipped to Frisco Lone Star High. $6,800. Custom molded cleats overnight from Oregon every 6 weeks. Capital One Venture $41,200, $27,000, charter flights to Arizona, Georgia, Florida. $14,200. Perry's Steakhouse team dinners $1,200, tabs, Tanner's name on the receipt. Discover it $34,300. $31,000. Performance supplements from South Beach Compounding Pharmacy, Miami. 4 cycles, trenbolone. 6 cycles, test SIP. DEA had flagged the pharmacy twice for selling to minors. $3, 300, miscellaneous at GNC Frisco. Every application used my social security number. My signature scanned from my 2016 learner's permit, the one I'd signed in purple gel pen photocopied onto the forms. My Frisco address. My maiden name. Some even listed Tanner as an authorized user so he could flash the card at team dinners like a big shot. Elena's pen flew across the pad. They didn't just hit you, she said, voice low. They stole your future to buy his. I stared at the numbers. $192,000. That was my first apartment deposit. My student loans paid off. My emergency fund. My freedom. Gone. I felt the bruise on my cheek throb in rhythm with my pulse. Elena closed the laptop. We need a lawyer, someone who eats fraud for breakfast. I knew exactly who. Mason Reed. We'd met in ENG 3100 business writing at UNT. He paid me in Shiner Bach and Torchy's tacos to rewrite his senior thesis on municipal bond fraud. Now he was of counsel white-collar crime at Baker Botts LLP downtown Dallas. His LinkedIn said he'd just closed a $42 million embezzlement case. I texted from Elena's phone, it's Avery Quinn. Need to talk. Federal level fraud. My family. Can you meet today? His reply came in 30 seconds, Mockingbird Station. Noon. Bring everything. I printed the credit report, the forged applications, the pharmacy receipts Elena had pulled from the billing portal. I stuffed them into a 2-inch binder labeled Tanner Quinn Baseball Empire, evidence. Mason met me in the Baker Botts lobby, $3,000 suit, same crooked grin from college. He took one look at my face and the binder and said, Jesus Quinn. You okay? No, I said. But I will be. We sat in a glass conference room overlooking the Katy Trail. I laid it out, the slap, the biopsy, the $192,000, the steroids, the charter jets. Mason flipped pages, eyes narrowing. Identity theft across state lines, he muttered. Wire fraud. Mail fraud, they used USPS to receive the cards. Tax evasion, your dad wrote off the batting cage as a business expense. This is federal, Avery. IRS, FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office. He closed the binder. 10 years minimum for the organizer. That's your dad. I nodded. I want them in prison. Mason didn't flinch. Then we file today. Not state court. Federal. I'll call the DOJ contact I used on the Enron cleanup. We'll have warrants by next week. He paused. You sure? This burns the house down. I thought of the slap. The boarding pass. The $3,500 cash in my go bag. The lump under my jaw. I'm sure. Mason stood. Then let's build the case. We spent 3 hours mapping charges. Dad Wade Quinn 12 felony counts, aggravated identity theft, wire fraud, tax evasion. Mom Lynn Quinn 8 counts, conspiracy, misprision of felony. Tanner 4 counts, co-conspirator, beneficiary. Mason slid a retainer across the table. Pro bono. You helped me pass college. I owe you. I signed. As I left, he called after me, Avery, one more thing. If Tanner's using steroids, USADA will test at WWBA. Surprise draw. If he's dirty, the whole empire collapses before we even file. I smiled for the first time in days. Let it burn. 2 weeks later, the baseball world detonated. I was in Elena's kitchen wearing her old UNT hoodie, eating Chobani straight from the container, when my new phone number, unlisted SIM bought with cash at a 7-Eleven in Irving, started vibrating like a chainsaw on the granite. I picked it up. The screen was a war zone. First group chat screenshots from parents I hadn't spoken to since high school. Then Twitter Spaces titled Tanner Quinn Busted, Live. Then DMs from accounts I didn't follow. Is this real? Did you tip USADA? Your brother's done. Perfect Game WWBA in Atlanta. Surprise testing on every arm, over 92 miles per hour. Tanner was yanked off the mound in the 3rd inning, escorted by 2 guys in USADA polos to a medical tent behind the dugout. Blood and urine. On the spot. Results hit the Olympic lab in Colorado Springs in under 48 hours. Testosterone epitestosterone ratio 1:4:2, normal is less than 6:1. Nandrolone decanoate 1200 ng divided by ml, therapeutic is less than 2. Stanozolol 480 ng divided by ml, banned outright. Numbers so cartoonish the lab flagged it as inconsistent with human physiology and sent it straight to MLB's Scouting Bureau, by 10:12 a.m. By 11:03 a.m. Tanner's name vanished from the live leaderboards. By noon prep baseball report profile gone. Perfect game rankings scrubbed. Baseball America top 100 prospects, 404 error. 14 Division I coaches who'd been texting Tanner heart emojis for 2 years stopped answering. 14 full ride offers evaporated like morning fog over White Rock Lake. The MLB draft board projecting him top 15 pick $3. 2M bonus added one line in internal notes that leaked an hour later, permanent global baseball ban. Do not contact. My phone became a weapon. Mom's 62 messages in 6 minutes. You did this. You leaked the test. Your brother is crying in his room and it's your fault. You're dead to us. Dad, one voicemail, 42 seconds of venom. You better pray I never see you again, Avery. You killed his dream. You killed this family. Tanner, 114 texts before I blocked him. Started with bargaining, sis please call mom, she's freaking out, I can explain the supplements. Moved to threats, if I lose my scholarship I swear to God, you're jealous, you never had talent. Ended in all caps, sobs, I took a razor to my wrist, BC of you, this is murder. As if I'd been the one holding the syringe. By 3:00 p.m. A GoFundMe popped up, help Tanner Quinn fight false positive, $0 raised, taken down in 20 minutes for violating terms. By 5:00 p.m. The top post on the biggest recruiting forum was a 47-page thread, Tanner Quinn steroid scandal, timeline and receipts, 1.2 million views. Side-by-side photos, Tanner at 1688 miles per hour's baby face. Tanner at 1795 miles per hour's, veins like cables, jaw like a comic book. Comments were surgical kid went from noodle arm to Cy Young in 18 months. Math ain't mathing. Parents built a juiced Frankenstein and blamed the sister when the lab called. Frisco royalty falls hard. I sat on Elena's living room floor, legs crossed, scrolling through the carnage while Blue rested his head on my knee. Every notification was another brick in the wall they'd built around Tanner, finally crushing him under it. I didn't smile, I didn't cry. I just watched the empire they sold my future to buy collapse in real time. And felt absolutely nothing. At 9:42 p.m., Mom called from a new number. I let it ring. Voicemail on speaker so Elena could hear. He tried to hurt himself tonight because of what you did. If he dies, his blood is on your hands. Come home right now and fix this. I blocked the number. Turned the phone face down. Poured a glass of water. Went to bed. For the first time in my life, nobody in that house could reach me. And Tanner's golden future. Already 6 feet under. 10 days after Tanner's meltdown in Atlanta, the empire fell. I was having lunch with Elena at Mi Cocina in University Park, margaritas and queso, when my new phone lit up with a WFAA push alert. I opened it and nearly dropped my fork. Photo, Dad, Coach Wade Quinn face pressed against the dusty hood of his own F-350 King Ranch in the middle of a half-built subdivision in Prosper, TX. 2 FBI agents in Navy windbreakers twisted his arms behind his back while his crew stood frozen with rebar in their hands. Headline: Frisco contractor arrested in $192 Kelvin's identity theft against own daughter. Elena's eyes went wide. That's today. I scrolled. The 2-inch binder Mason had filed was a masterpiece. Page 1, my social security card next to 8 forged credit card applications. Page 2, $41,200 private jet fuel charges, Lakeland, FL. Page 50, South Beach compounding pharmacy receipts, Trenbolone test sip addressed to T. Quinn, Frisco, TX. Page 400, bank records, every payment from Wade Quinn Construction LLC or Lynn Quinn's personal debit. IRS addendum, $48, 0 inches tax evasion, batting cage jugs machine charter flights written off as business expenses. Mason had filed federal not state IRS Criminal Investigation Division, tax fraud. FBI Dallas Field Office, wire fraud, identity theft across state lines. U.S. Postal Inspection Service, mail fraud, cards delivered via USPS. U.S. Attorney's Office, Northern District of Texas, full prosecution package. Case number 2-3-CR-489. Mom was arrested 24 hours later in the Costco Frisco parking lot on Preston Road. She was still holding 2 tubs of Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard Whey vanilla ice cream, Tanner's favorite, when agents put her in cuffs. Ankle monitor glowing under her LuLaRoe leggings. Passport surrendered. House arrest, pending bond. Tanner got served 3 days after that. Federal marshals found him at Frisco Commons Park throwing bullpens alone under the floodlights because every private facility in North Texas had banned him for life. They took his iPhone 15 Pro Max, his MacBook Pro, his lifted Silverado, everything. The indictment dropped the following Monday. Wade Quinn 12 felony counts. Aggravated identity theft. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. Conspiracy. Lynn Quinn 8 counts, including misprision of felony, knew about the crime, did nothing. Tanner Quinn 4 counts as co-conspirator and beneficiary. No bond for dad. Flight risk. The company jet was still in his name. Straight to FDC Dallas in an orange jumpsuit and belly chain. Mom made bond but got the glowing ankle bracelet. Confined to the Cottonwood Lane house, now crawling with news trucks 24/7. Tanner was gagged to the property under pretrial supervision. No cleats. No mound. No escape. Mason sent the mug shots via secure email. Dad face, gray eyes, hollow whistle gone. Mom 20 years older, mascara streaked. Tanner kid in a man's body finally realizing the world wouldn't bend. The story went national for 3 days. WFAA, Channel 8 camped on the lawn until the judge issued a no media perimeter. ESPN ran a 45-second segment on SportsCenter. Top pitching prospect Tanner Quinn's family arrested in fraud scandal. $192. 0 inches stolen funds allegedly fueled his rise and his fall. Former travel ball parents, ones who used to kiss the ground Tanner walked on, suddenly remembered every suspicious detail they'd ignored. Kid gained 30 pounds of muscle in a year. Coach Quinn bragged about offshore supplements. Avery was always the one paying. I watched it all from Elena's guest room, drinking coffee on a quiet morning, reading the indictment like it was the best novel I'd ever opened. I didn't celebrate. I didn't cry. I just felt the final chain snap. Wade Quinn was no longer my father. He was federal inmate #719 to 509. And I was finally completely untouchable. 14 months later. United States District Court, Northern District of Texas, Dallas Division. Courtroom 15B. I took the last seat in the back row, plain black blazer, hair in a low knot, no makeup. I wanted to be invisible. I was the only person in the gallery who wasn't press, family, or law enforcement. The marshals brought Dad in first. Orange jumpsuit. Belly chain. Hair gone gray at the temples. He'd lost 40 pounds and every ounce of swagger. When he scanned the room for familiar faces, his eyes slid right past me like I was a stranger. Good. Mom came next. Ankle monitor hidden under wide-leg trousers, clutching a rosary so hard her knuckles blanched. She looked 20 years older than the woman who used to cheer at Tanner's games in a custom Lone Star hoodie. Tanner shuffled in last. Prison issue slides, wrists cuffed in front, looking every bit the broken 17-year-old he now was. The golden arm was gone, just a kid who finally understood the mound wasn't his anymore. None of them saw me. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The prosecutor, a woman in a navy suit, voice flat as West Texas, laid out the final plea deal. Wade Quinn. Guilty plea to 3 counts aggravated identity theft, 2 counts wire fraud, 1 count tax evasion. Recommended sentence 87 months federal incarceration, no parole, 3 years supervised release. Lynn Quinn. Guilty to conspiracy and misprision of felony. 54 months probation. First 24 months home confinement, full restitution, joint and several. Tanner Quinn. Adjudication withheld. Diversion program, 3 years probation, permanent ban from organized baseball at any level. The judge asked Dad if he had anything to say. He stood. Voice shaking. Gave the performance of a lifetime. I'm ashamed. Made terrible choices. Trying to give my son a chance. Never meant to hurt my daughter. He even managed to tear. The judge wasn't moved. When she pronounced the sentence, 87 months at FCI Segoville, report date 30 days, Dad's knees buckled. 2 marshals caught him before he hit the floor. Mom let out one animal sound, half sob, half scream. Tanner just stared straight ahead, eyes empty. Restitution was ordered jointly and severally, $192, 412 plus interest payable immediately. The prosecutor then requested, and the judge granted, forfeiture of the Cottonwood Lane property to satisfy part of the debt. The 5-bedroom ranch. The 70-foot batting cage. The trophy room with Tanner's jerseys framed in gold. All of it. Gone. Auction scheduled, 41 days. I watched the marshals lead Dad away. His shoulders were rounded like an old man's. Mom reached for Tanner, but he flinched from her touch. For one brief second, Mom's eyes swept the gallery searching. They landed on me. I didn't move. Didn't nod. Didn't blink. She realized who I was. Her face crumpled completely. I just looked through her like she was glass. The judge banged the gavel. Case closed. People started filing out. I stayed in my seat until the room was empty, except for the court reporter packing up. When the final reporter left, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding for over 2 years. There was no victory rush. No tears. No desire to run up and scream in their faces. Just a vast icy emptiness where my family used to be. Like standing in the backyard batting cage after the lights finally went out for good. Cold, silent. Over. I walked out of the courthouse into a bright Dallas afternoon. The skyline looked exactly the same as it always had. But everything else was different now. The pathology report came back on a Tuesday in June, slipped under Elena's office door like any other chart. Benign thyroid adenoma. No evidence of malignancy. I read it 3 times in the hallway outside her clinic, fingers tracing the words as if they might vanish. Elena found me there, eyes wet, and hugged me so hard my scar ached. 35 minutes surgery, she said. Outpatient. You'll have a 2-centimeter line under your jaw. That's all. The procedure was in July. Local anesthetic, a tiny incision, the lump lifted out like a pebble from a stream. I woke up in recovery with a band-aid and a grin I couldn't wipe off. The scar healed to a thin silver thread, my badge, my proof that I'd survived more than cancer. With the restitution checks rolling in, $192,412 wired in chunks from the Cottonwood Lane auction, I had a down payment. I closed on a $1,942 bungalow in Lakewood, East Dallas on a golden September Tuesday. $310,000. Dark green siding, wraparound porch, oak floors that creaked like they were telling stories. The backyard was big enough for a dog and a garden, and absolutely no batting cage. I got the keys at 4:17 p.m., walked inside and slept on the bare floor that night because the moving truck was late. It was the best sleep of my life. October came crisp and blue. I planted lavender along the fence, rows of purple that smelled like freedom every time the wind shifted. I hung a porch swing, painted the front door mean green orange, and adopted Tex from the SPCA, a scruffy golden mix with one ear that flopped and a tail that never stopped wagging. Work found me too. The agency in Deep Ellum, Red Balloon Creative, had poached me 6 months earlier for freelance gigs. After the trial made national news, the partners called me in. Senior copywriter, they said. Full-time. Benefits. Corner office with a view of the mural. I accepted on the spot. My first campaign launched in November, Tell Your Truth, for a mental health nonprofit. It won a regional Addy. My name was on the trophy this time. Mornings became ritual. 5 a.m. Tex and I ran the White Rock Lake Loop, 5 miles of water and sky. I'd stop at the dog park, let him chase squirrels, then grab coffee from Murray Street Coffee on the way home. I wrote headlines in my head while the city woke up. Your story doesn't end where they left you. Afternoons were mine. I cooked real meals, cast iron skillet fajitas, rosemary focaccia from the Lakewood Farmers Market. I read on the porch swing until the streetlights flickered on. I called Elena every Sunday. She and Blue came for brunch and we laughed until our sides hurt. I kept the pathology report framed on my desk, benign. No malignancy. Some days I touched the glass just to feel the words were real. I never went back to Frisco. Not for holidays. Not for curiosity. Not even when the Cottonwood Lane house sold to a young family with a toddler and a golden retriever. I saw the listing photos online: batting cage gone, trophy room now a playroom, stadium lights replaced by string bulbs over a patio. I closed the tab and watered my lavender. Tex learned to fetch. I learned to breathe without checking who might be watching. 1 year after sentencing, I stood on my porch at sunset, Tex at my feet, lavender swaying in the breeze. The scar under my jaw caught the last light, a quiet line, a closed chapter. I was whole. I was home. I was finally completely 100% mine. Chun-G 11, the last pitch. Word count 1002. 1 year after the gavel fell, I drove south on Highway 380, just because the light was perfect. No destination, just a craving for White Rock coffee on the old stretch of Main in Frisco. I took the back roads without thinking, past the high school, past the Whataburger where I used to flip biscuits at midnight, and there it was. Cottonwood Lane. A bright red sold sign staked in the front yard. A U-Haul backed into the driveway. A young couple carrying boxes laughing. Their little girl chasing soap bubbles across what used to be Tanner's practice mound. The batting cage was gone. The stadium lights were gone. The trophy shelves were gone. In their place raised garden beds, tomatoes heavy on the vine, a hand-painted welcome sign swinging from the porch. I slowed to 10 miles an hour. The woman looked up, smiled, waved like people do in Texas. I lifted one hand off the wheel in return. In the rear view I watched the little girl run straight across the spot where I once stood counting fastballs in the dark. I held the image for exactly 1 second. Then I pressed the accelerator and merged back onto the road. My hands did not shake. Not even a tremor. That night I was scrolling Instagram on my porch swing, Tex snoring beside me, lavender thick in the air, when a YouTube notification popped up. New video from Tanner Quinn, the comeback, 1.2 million subscribers. I clicked before I could stop myself. The thumbnail: Tanner leaner hair, buzz short, standing on a public park mound in Austin, not Frisco. Title: How I Beat the System, Mental Toughness Masterclass, $297. Limited spots. He'd changed his last name to T. Knox. A nod to Fort Knox, he explained in the intro, because my mindset is unbreakable. No mention of steroids. No mention of federal prison. No mention of me. Just a slickly produced montage, slow-motion bullpens. Voiceover about false positives and jealous haters. Testimonials from former D1 athletes, paid actors, I'd bet. He sold online courses, ebooks, comeback blueprint hoodies for $89. His bio: banned by the machine. Rebuilt by the grind. Comments: King is back, they tried to cancel him but he rose. Sign my kid up. I closed the app. My stomach turned, but not with fear. With pity. He was still pitching to an audience that didn't know the mound was built on my stolen future. 2 days later the text came from a burner number. I know what you did. This isn't over. I stared at the screen on my kitchen counter, Tex watching me with one ear flopped. The old Avery would have panicked. The new Avery, I typed one message. One sentence. One period. You had your shot. I have my life. Don't contact me again. Sent, blocked, deleted. I didn't screenshot it. Didn't tell Elena. Didn't call Mason. Because it didn't matter. Tanner could sell 1,000 courses. He could throw 98 inches some indie league in Sugarland or Mexico. He could scream into the void until his voice gave out. But he would never touch my peace again. That night I climbed the stairs to the rooftop deck I'd added to the bungalow: string lights, 2 Adirondack chairs, a view of the Dallas skyline glowing gold and violet. Tex followed, tail thumping, and flopped at my feet. I poured a glass of Topo Chico lime, wedge bobbing, and leaned against the railing. The city hummed below, traffic on 75, the distant rumble of the DART train, the soft clink of wind chimes from the neighbor's yard. I touched the scar under my jaw, 2 centimeters silver in the moonlight. I thought of the little girl chasing bubbles on Tanner's old mound. I thought of the lavender in my backyard, blooming wild and free. I thought of the $192,412 now sitting in a high-yield account, growing roots for a future I'd built myself. I thought of the slap. The boarding pass. The boarding call I never answered. And I smiled, not the tight, polite smile I'd worn for 28 years, but a real one, wide and unguarded, the kind that starts in your chest and ends in your eyes. Tex sighed, rolled onto his back, paws in the air. I whispered to the skyline, to the lavender, to the girl I used to be. I never went back. And I never will. The wind carried the words away over the rooftops, past the old life, into the wide Texas sky. And for the first time I believed them.